In this video, I've got the Project Huge Jeep. I've got a bunch of updates that I made. We'll check that out before going out in the backwoods for a nice Jeep safari. Hey everyone, welcome to Adventure RC. My name is Greg and Project Huge Jeep, if you haven't seen this before, the whole idea behind this is I'm taking a kid's electric Power Wheels, a ride-on toy, took the electric motors off, and instead I strapped a 50cc gasoline engine in this. And when this is running, it is absolutely hilarious to see something like this zipping back and forth within the front yard. Now, this all hasn't been fun and games. I've spent a lot of time off camera trying to get this to run longer than 5 minutes without something breaking. When I first got this together, the issues all started with the back end of the Jeep, starting with the driveline. Let's check it out. The Jeep is going to be two-wheel drive and it runs off of a simple chain and sprocket system. It goes down to the main drive sprocket on the axle. Nothing fancy. I'm running just a straight axle on it right now. Most of the problems that I had with the drive system was the chain coming off. It started by coming off every 10 feet. I did some revisions and then it would stay on for about 20 feet and then 50 feet. With each revision, it got better and better. Finally, I took a big break and I went and redesigned a bunch of new brackets back here. And when I added this proper chain tensioner right here, that's where this thing is now rock solid. Since I put this system on, I haven't had the chain come off once. Once the back end of the Jeep was updated and running reliably, I turned my attention to the next weakest link, which was the steering. And this has been my nemesis for about the past month and a half. I can't get this Jeep running for more than about 5 minutes before I would break a steering linkage on here. I did a bunch of updates. I actually ran a very rigid steering linkage system on here and it worked okay, but with all the shock that these front wheels see, transferring it into the steering servo, that steering servo was starting to make some noise and it's still good, but I don't want to replace it just yet. So yesterday, working off camera, I had some breakthroughs on the steering that now I have something that has like some spring tension to it so the wheels can take some impact without relaying it into that steering servo, but I get a lot of good turning action on the Jeep. So let's check out what I did. I think I was able to find a nice camera angle. We can check out the steering system. We're going to start out with, of course, the steering servo. I've got a straight servo horn coming out and then a connector rod that goes up to this anchor point in the middle that then is connected up to the rest of the steering system. Now this anchor point in the middle, I've got a spring off to either side, and that is now kind of the servo saver, the cushion, so that these wheels can kind of twitch and bump around going over rough terrain like a Jeep should and not transfer it directly into the steering servo. You know, now that I take a look at this system, it looks very basic and rudimentary and like, why didn't I just do this to begin with? Well, when I was setting this all up, there's no real good guide of like shoehorning all these parts into this ride-on Jeep. It was never meant to have this conversion into an RC Jeep. And well, I guess this is the path that it took to get here. And I learned a lot of things along the way. And by the way, the big breakthrough that I had yesterday, I'll see if I can grab something other than my finger, maybe this little shiny piece of metal here. This clevis I used to have on a different servo horn, and that would only allow the servo horn to turn back and forth so far before it would bind up against the clevis. So I finally realized instead of having the clevis wrapping around the servo horn, why don't I just move the entire clevis down below, and now I can have the full arc swing of the steering system, and that is where I get all of my steering action. Since we're down here, I turn the radio gear on and let's check out the steering. So here it is at full speed. A lot of good turning action, and we'll see with the wheels just on the ground without the Jeep moving, it does compress the springs down. But when this thing is rolling, or even if I just lift the front end up a little bit, we'll see this is how it would be running a normal operation. The radio gear batteries are all charged up. I've got gas in the tank, And I think we're ready to take this out into the backwoods, and fingers crossed that it doesn't break and I've got to drag it by hand all the way back. When next we meet, we'll be out in the backwoods going for our first Jeep safari. That was so awesome out there. I wish I had two cameras, one for the truck and one to see the smile on my face as this thing is finally running a bit more reliable so I can get some awesome enjoyment out of it. Now, one of the things that we saw when I was out there, I was actually going off the jump and getting some air off of this thing, keeping in mind this has virtually no suspension on it at all. So in one of the last jumps, I did break the steering linkage on it one more time, and I wouldn't really say that I broke it, more that it just simply came apart because I didn't tighten down some screws. I've got a metal part going into a soft aluminum part, and I think that aluminum part just kind of squished around and then finally let go after I was launching this like 20 feet up in the air. So I think the next update that I'll do on here is remake that aluminum clevis out of steel. I've got access to some machining equipment, and I think that'll be quick work of that. The other thing that I'd like to do is, these are just solid plastic wheels. There's no give to it. So most of the time the Jeep is only ever running around on 3 wheels. I'm going to change these over to some pneumatic rubber tires on here to give it more traction and hopefully be a part of the suspension and soak up some of the bumps and jumps out on the track. So what do you think? Do you want to see some more videos on this huge Jeep? Let me know by leaving a comment down below, along with hitting that like and subscribe button. Not only does it help the channel grow, it's an awesome way to connect video content like this with great viewers just like you. And until I see you again in the next video, I'm Greg from Adventure RC.